Hi students, this video is to give you a little bit of historical context about Kant and some of his key ideas. In the last video, we talked about Descartes and how his ideas and his exploration of the truth, his search for truth, was sort of a reaction to feudalism and sort of revolutionary in the face of feudalism. So Descartes sort of was one of the first writers and thinkers to sort of rebel against feudalism and rebel against this idea that we just receive knowledge from the church and the king. And Kant is somebody who moved even more fully into what we call the Age of Reason, or the Enlightenment project, which is how we're going to refer to it in our class. The Enlightenment took place in Europe. They're not specific dates, but sort of the 17th and 18th century. And in the Enlightenment, people started to value empirical knowledge, and they started to value thinking for themselves. And Kant was very much a part of that. According to Kant, enlightenment is man's release from his self-incurred tutelage, sometimes called nonage, depending on your translation. And I have in my notes kind of exactly what self-incurred tutelage means. Tutelage is man's inability to make use of his understanding without direction from another. So inability to think for yourself. That's what tutelage is. And self-incurred means it's not, you're not unable to think for yourself because of a lack of reason or a lack of ability. But Kant believed we don't think for ourselves because we have a lack of resolution and courage. Why are people in this state of self-incurred tutelage? Kant said it's because we can be lazy and we can be cowardly. One of the ways to think about Kant in terms of current theories about persistence and motivation is he might say we have a kind of learned helplessness, that we are taught not to think or question, and over time we just don't. We just believe what other people tell us. We don't question it, and we find life easier that way. So that's what we do. So some key ideas that we might, remember from Kant is to be courageous. Don't be a coward. Think for yourself. He says being lazy and not thinking for yourself is a habit that's really hard to get out of. And he says the church cannot be an unchanging symbol and guardian of a society. Kant was not very negative about the church. He had seen sort of the value of the church in helping us connect to community, helping us get through hard times. But he says we shouldn't just take everything the church tells us. We shouldn't just accept everything the church tells us as true. And even taking that kind of moderate position was really radical at this time in history. Then Kant had this really interesting idea that about public reason and private reason being different. So public figures and those out in public need to be free and use their own reason. Kant says this alone can bring about enlightenment among men. He's saying, you can argue as much as you will and what you will, but just obey. So one way to think about that is I might know how the government is dispersing my taxes. And I might, for example, think, I don't want my taxes to go to fighting wars I don't believe in. Maybe the United States is in some military operation that I think they shouldn't be involved in. Kant would say, go ahead and speak up about your opposition to the war, but go ahead and pay your taxes. You need to. You can privately reason against that, but you need to follow the law and be part of society. And so go ahead and pay those taxes. And one thing to say about the Enlightenment, one question that's asked is, do people in the Enlightenment live in an enlightened age? Not really, but they lived in an age of enlightenment where a lot of knowledge was being gained and pursued. Let me see if there's anything else. Somehow I've lost. There we go. Nope. I think those are my key points about Kant. We'll talk about him more in class. You see there's another video on Kant that's worth watching right after this one. And if you have any questions, let me know.